with us, we have Shannon Walker. Shannon is the founder and CEO of Whistleblower Security. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Amanda. Thanks for having me today.
A pleasure. So today we're going to talk about Whistleblower Hotline. I think to start, can you briefly tell us what a hotline is?
Sure. So what we do is we provide global hotlines to clients all over the world that allows them to create access for their employees or other stakeholders to reach out confidentially and anonymously to report any kind of wrongdoing within the workplace. The hotlines are, for the most part, toll-free hotlines, so they're no cost to the reporters who are calling, and they're set up in each region or country so that it's an easy dial from someone's mobile phone or their landline to reach out and report on wrongdoing and let management know that there's something amiss within the organization.
Okay, very good. And about you a bit, like what inspired you to start Whistleblower Security?
Back in the early 2000s, we were managing a publicly traded company. And at that time, Sarbanes-Oxley legislation came into place in the US, which required all publicly traded organizations to have an anonymous reporting system in place. And at that time, we had a contact center within our own offices and a really good IT department. And I spent about a year researching reporting forms and the regulations around what was needed to be provided. And we built our first very elementary platform so that we could offer our hotline plus the platform to intake reports. So people could file directly into the platform, or they could call the contact center and talk to a live agent. And in the time, in the next decade, we've basically got a 24/7 contact center. We have hotlines set up in over 100 countries, and we live answer in English, French, and Spanish. And we have an interpretation partner so that we can service up to 150 other languages. So it's really a full service program now. And if someone wants to call and report in their native language, they can do so with the assistance of an interpreter. And then it all goes into our Integrity Counts platform. And that is where the organization and the reporter can dialogue again confidentially and anonymously about whatever the allegation is and work to investigate and find a resolution.
Very good. Well, you've been in the industry for a little while now. What do you think has changed since you started with the company and in the industry?
At the very beginning, I think there was a bit of pushback. I think that there was still almost a cultural hangover whereby a whistleblower line was considered a snitch line. And so there was negative connotations around what it meant. And then over the last decade or so, it's become a best practice to put this type of system into place, because not only does it protect the organization, maybe from a reputation point of view and a financial point of view, but it protects the employers or the employees. And I think it's really important that this type of safety net is implemented in any kind of an organization. So when we started, it was really just publicly traded companies. Now it's public, private, nonprofit, government. This system is put into place by any type of entity. And I think it's now considered, again, a best practice. And back in the day when I started, there wasn't a chief ethics officer or a chief compliance officer. And now that's, especially in larger organizations, that's a standard role within the organization. So there's been a maturity and an acceptance. And the research that we've done recently shows that employees would rather work for an organization that has a whistleblower hotline in place because they feel that management is empowering and supporting their employees.
That's very interesting. And you actually mentioned this becoming a best practice. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, what are the risks if you are, for example, a public company and you don't have implemented a hotline?
So the risks are you're in violations of the legislation. That's one risk. The other risk is that if you don't put a system like this in place, what you will find is that employees want to talk. They want to talk to someone. And if they can't raise the alerts within their own organization, they're probably going to go outside the organization. And that's where you can have them going direct to the SEC, say in the US, and the Department of Justice. And then you're going to have regulators looking at what's going on in your organization. They could go to the press, and then you're going to find your internal story that perhaps you could have handled yourselves and kept it under the radar is on the front page of the Wall Street Journal or CNN or something like that, and it would be disastrous. So from a public relations point of view, I think you want to have a system like this in place so that if there is infractions within your workplace, you can manage it internally and work to find resolution. So again, it's protecting the organization's reputation and protecting the employees who find the courage to speak up. Because I think, especially for employees, I think it is a long journey to get them to the point where they're able to speak up or they feel supported enough to speak up. I know that we found in our experience that oftentimes people call 3 times before they make a report. So they'll call to talk to someone to find out what the process is. Are they really going to be protected? What does it look like? And then once they get the confidence that they will be protected and our system secure, then they finally call to make the report.
Very, very good. Of course, we always want to protect the reputation and be compliant. So it's very useful too. But at the same time, how does the employees know what kind of activities to report?
So the best practices, again, what we would counsel our clients would be to implement a training and awareness program. So the training program should go into exactly what you just asked. What types of reports should come through this system? What are the proper reporting channels? Always you want to encourage people to go to their direct supervisor or HR initially. And again, we're there in case they aren't feeling comfortable enough to go to their direct supervisor. As part of the training program, I think it's really important to train people on what are violations specifically within your industry. So what is a violation when you're on a mining site is going to be different than when you're in a retail store. And so to provide real life examples to employees, I think is very valuable, because then they'll really realize, what constitutes coming forward and using a system like this. I'd also say part of our counsel to our clients is encouraging employees to speak up, even if they don't have evidence that something is amiss, but if they feel that they've seen something, to still report it, because those are the best types of opportunities for companies to start an investigation and sort of unpeel the onion, so to say, to see if there is things wrong. And then also say to them, if you report and it turns out that there is nothing wrong, of course, there'll be no actions taken against you if you self-identify. But I think it's really important just to reiterate to employees that the system is there. So if they are uncomfortable and they think something's wrong, they have the opportunity to report and feel safe.
Very good. And so it protects the employees, the company, the reputation. But what about the top level of the company? Do they have any visibility on what happens? For example, do the board uses this information?
It depends on the organization. Some board members, sometimes the chair of the audit committee would be our backup reviewer, so that if the reviewers of the reports are actually implicated in a report, then it'll go to the board. Oftentimes, the people that are in charge of the ethics and compliance hotline create reports out of our platform that allows them to take holistic reviews of the reports to the board. So the board doesn't see the nuances and the details of the reports, but they can see the outcome. So how many reports were received, how many were substantiated, what were the outcomes? Were they policy changes? Were there coaching opportunities? Were people terminated? Were there funds that were remediated or found? So the board usually, with their interaction with our system, is really getting that sort of top line view. And again, from a board perspective, with the global regulations that are out there, with GDPR and with the UK Bribery Act and everything else, the board has fiduciary duties, and they also have liabilities. So I think it's very important for them to understand the implementation, the usage, and the outcomes of having a system like this in place.
Very good. Well, I think this is very enlightening. Thank you so much, Shannon, for this just a quick minutes talk with you. And if you want to learn more about Whistleblower Hotline, I'll be happy to share details from Shannon. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Amanda. Bye-bye.